Our Relationships 101, beginning at Genesis chapter number 2 and verse number 18. And the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him." But there are things that we have to know to make every relationship successful. If you've been in relationships and they've not worked out, as you've matured, you found that there are things that you could have done differently. If you could have gone back, you could have made that work, which means you've learned some values along the way that would have been helpful. But it would have been great if someone had shared those values with you so that you wouldn't have made those mistakes. So somewhere we tend to fail from a lack of knowledge, the Bible says. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Relationships fail for a lack of knowledge. There are things that people do not know or do not understand. No one is perfect. I expected this from you. I'm getting this from you. So that distance between here and here is disappointed. This is how disappointed I am. But we're disappointed with our appointment, because we appoint people to be certain things. We appoint them to fulfill certain things in our lives, not by agreement, by appointment. You appointed them to be a certain thing. They're meant to fulfill certain things. And because they didn't live up to that, you're disappointed with your appointment. It's nothing about that other person. Remember, you can't change anyone. The worst thing you can do is try and change a person. It's not going to be always to your choosing or to your liking. That's a big adjustment that some people have to make. It's not going to be to your choosing and to your liking. You learn how to bear with and make the best of what God brings you, of what He allows you to have. Taking lemons and making what? Lemonade and lemon meringue pie and lemon cookies and lemon drop cake, whatever, but learning how to make the best of what you're given. That's what makes relationships work. It's not something being perfect, but it's taking the imperfections and making something out of it. We grew up with that in mind, and down where I grew up, we didn't have anything that was new, but we made it new. We took what was, and we made it a delicacy, or we made it a treat. We made it to where somebody will look at that and realize, how did you come up with that? And it was just something that was old that was made new. That's what relationship is about, taking what was there and making something new out of it, and having the value because you made it that way. It's not what it was, it's better than what it was because of what you have put into it. But when we don't want to put anything into it, we want things to come out of it, that's a displaced value. We don't want to add to it, we want it to somehow become everything that we hoped and desired it to be. It takes work and effort. Anyone that's been married 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, has it been easy? No. They've gone through the same bumps that everybody else has, but they've learned how to persevere through the storm. Ask this couple, they've been married 50 years, say, have you ever thought about divorce? He says, no, never. Murder? Several times. Because it's difficult. You're going to have challenges along the way. Friendships and relationships are different also, because everybody thinks that relationships should be friendly. You know, your relationships are different than friendships. You choose your friends. You don't choose sometimes all relationships. You go into a working environment, you got to have a relationship with someone, but you may not have chosen them as the people you choose to work with. You're born into a family. You didn't choose this family. Yeah. Uncle Bobo and Cousin Willie. You know, you didn't choose some of your, but they are family. You have to learn how to relate to them. And if you get married, you marry into, now you got a blended family. Now you inherit new relatives and new cousins who always has needs. And you got to learn how to relate to them. I'm just saying that they're not always going to be friendly relationships. Some relationships you just learn how to navigate through them, some at a distance, some you learn how to just position people. That's what it's about, to make relationships, learning how to position people. Keep your friends close and your enemies what? Closer. Learning how to position them. Genesis says it's not good that man should be alone. And whenever God says something is not good, God means it's not good. It's not good. Man had fellowship, make a note of this. Man had fellowship with God before he had fellowship with anyone else. His first relationship, when God created man, when God created him, man had this relationship with God before he had a relationship with, before God brought him a wife, before children, before anything else, the relationship was primarily with God. That should be the foundation and the bedrock of every relationship. Before you can have a strong horizontal relationship, you got to have a strong vertical relationship. And that vertical relationship determines the strength and value of your horizontal relationships. Because the horizontal relationships all rest upon that vertical relationship that you have. The stronger that relationship with God, the better you'll find that you can have a relationship with those around you. You may not like everybody, but you learn how to love everybody, right? That's that thing. God says love everybody. He didn't say you have to like them. Learn how to love everybody as Christ loves us. Listen to this. How can you love God and hate anyone? How can you really love God and hate anybody? So we learn how to bear with whatever issues you face with people. You learn how to bear with that because of God's love for us. Remember, God loved us so much that he died for us. He gave his only son, and Jesus died for us. And Jesus says he died not for the righteous. While we were yet sinners, he died for us. He didn't wait until we got it all together. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So the same way that he bore with us and bears with us in our difficulties, in our trials, in our struggles, we're meant to bear with people around us the exact same way. They deserve the same respect, the same attention, the same considerations. Because the way we give it is the way we're going to receive it one day. Be kind to everybody. You don't know who you'll pass, who you'll need at some other point in your life. Just be good to everybody. Sow seeds everywhere that you go. In 1 John chapter 4, verse number 20 explains it a little bit better. If someone says, I love God and hates his brother, he's a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? And this commandment we have from him, that he who loves God must love his brother also. God's love is the source of all human love. The love for God is the source of all human love, and it's contagious. It's contagious. And God kindles a flame in our hearts, and others are warmed by God's love through us. Our love warms other people. Because some people think that the world's a cold place, but love is that warmth, it's that strength. It gives a person that validity. It validates them to know that somebody loves them. In spite of all that you may see, you love them anyway. Especially when people have difficulty loving themselves and you love them. You know, Jesus loved us knowing all about us. Imagine someone knowing all your issues and still loving you. That's love. They know all your stuff and they're still going to love you anyway. So I'm going to go over the basics right now. I found this acronym. It's called CRIBS. The basics of every relationship, CRIBS. Now I'm going to ask you first. Don't show them yet until I ask them. So your basis of every relationship, to make every relationship work, is CRIBS. What do you think the C is that makes every relationship work? The most important aspect of a relationship is what? Communication. That's right. Communication. That's the number one. Communication. Communication. If you get that right, that's where everything else rests upon. If you got money issues, it goes back to somehow communication. Intimacy, outside influences, expectations, it goes back to how well you're communicating. That's the key for every relationship. One reason that in the workplace that it works well is you ever notice they have a lot of meetings in workplaces, especially if it's a big environment, they meet often. And these meetings, you have team meetings, you have conference meetings, you have staff meetings, you can't get any work done for all the meetings. But the meetings are there to make sure that everyone is on the same page and everythone is working toward the same agenda. They're meetings to keep everything current, to let everybody know where everything is. If there's any issues, we're going to resolve them at the meetings. In the same way, communication is very vital for us. How often do we communicate with people around us that we know and care about? I'm not talking about the casual, how's your day? Everything is good, fine, I'm talking about real, true communication. Now, communication comes in different forms, and the most important form is verbal. Verbal and direct. If you can go directly to somebody, if something happens, go directly to them and just ask and just kind of work it out. But we tend to not do that. We have these nonverbal ways of communicating. If you got an issue with somebody, what do? We be quiet. We're quiet. And we'll wait till somebody asks us, what's going on? Well, you quiet. What's going on? Is everything okay? Rather than just saying what's on your mind. We have these nonverbal cues. We just kind of, don't talk to anybody. They're talking to you and you don't look at them. So how's things? Fine. Just be direct and just say what's on your mind. See, I grew up in a household that wasn't very functional. My mom and dad wouldn't talk. They would talk through the kids. Tell your dad food's ready. Okay. Dad, food's ready. He's right here. To be effective, it has to be verbal. It has to be direct. And another thing is you have to be the right volume, the right time, and the right tone. I could go through a whole thing on communication, but I'm just going to give you an overview. The right volume, the right time, and the right tone. When you're communicating, the volume is so key and so essential. Because when you start talking in a verbal communication in a respectful way, your volume is a certain point. But when your volume starts getting to be loud, then now it's become intimidating and it appears to be disrespectful. And now you have this defensive attitude and posture that's being taken. Now you're clamoring back and forth because there's an ego that's clashing now because of volume. I know some of us grew up with families where everybody talks loud. That's just how we do it. If I got to go there, got those reunions, you go back to a reunion, everybody's talking loud in the house. That's how they do it. You talk quiet, people are like, what's wrong with you? So that's just how some people communicate. But when you're having communication, volume is very important. If it gets above a certain decibel level, it's time to stop communication because it's going into the danger zone, right? Also, the time is very important. If you've got an issue, the Bible says, do not let the sun go down upon your wrath, right? That means you're not going to let things just kind of linger and go on, just unresolved. We're not going to talk about it. Been there before. We're just not going to talk about it. Well, you need to talk about it. You sweep stuff under the rug, pretty soon you got a big lump under your rug. You got this, everybody's tripping over the rug. Everybody's complaining about, but now you're tripping all the time. Why are you tripping? Because there's so much stuff that's unresolved that makes people trip. So you got to resolve things so it just stays current. It's no longer an issue before the sun goes down. But there's a right time to do it. You don't do it when emotions are high. If your emotions are high, it's not a good time because don't give the emotions a voice. If you're very emotional, get too happy, don't be quiet. Get too sad, too angry, too whatever, don't give your emotions a voice. Find the right time to discuss things. And if you can't discuss it right now because you're not in a good emotional state, say, hey, just give me a minute, let's talk about it in just a minute. Because you can tell when you're getting to that point to where your emotions are about to start saying things. My mother said, don't write a check with your mouth. And blah, blah, blah. So you had a mother like that too, right? So we write checks with our mouths, right? We tend to say things that later on we have to pay for. So find the right volume, the right time, and lastly, the right tone. Sometimes things can be said with a tone it's just the way you said it. It's not what you said. It's how you said it. That little condescending tone, the way you can say things that just means just to give, And we know how to push buttons like that. That's the way we communicate. We tend to do those things. And then it's back and forth. How can you go back and forth? And now we got this little badgering going on because I'm not happy with you, you're not happy with me, so I'll show my displeasure by taking away something with you that caused you pain. Or we tend to go back and forth with this stuff, but it's all nonverbal. It'd be so much easier if we went direct and communicated, let people know what's going on. Assumptions is another thing. Assumptions that always begin with something like I thought. Assumptions always has an I thought to it, you know. Somebody, oh, I thought we were didn't have church today because nobody called me or whatever. I thought I paid that bill, right? Till the lights go off, you know, hey, what's this? Call, hey, I thought I paid that. Well, guess what? You'll remember next time. We make assumptions. The 10 Commandments that God gives us covers five of the commandments covers our relationship with God. And then the other 5 commandments covers our relationship with people. And if it always goes back to just the commandments, if we could remember those commandments, right? Remember the commandments. And remember, my children, if you ask the James children what the 10 commandments are, we have this acronym. I remember everything. Anybody go through school and you made it through school through acronyms and slogans? Well, the acronym for the 10 commandments is slacking, S-H, slacking, sh, S-L-A-C-K-I-N-G-S-H. So they all give this in order. So the S for the 10 commandments, the S, thou shalt not steal. The L, thou shalt not lie. The A, thou shalt not commit adultery. The C, thou shalt not covet. The K, thou shalt not kill. The I, thou shalt not serve idols. The N, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. The G, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Then the other S is remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And then the H is honor your father and mother. That's the 10 commandments. And if you work on that acronym, you'll never forget the 10 commandments because we should keep them at the forefront. If we can remember what they are and keep them there, it'll keep us steady and on track. Keep them committed to memory. And every once in a while, I go through those and realize, are you doing that still? That's why they put road signs on the road, because you may forget what the speed limit is. You may forget which road you're on. So every once in a while, if you travel across country, you're looking for that sign that once in a while it says I-10 still, right? Oh, okay, I'm on the right track. Because if you think you're going on I-10, all of a sudden you see I-40, you made a wrong turn somewhere. So the things we commit to memory lets us stay on track. All I'm saying. When you keep reviewing the commandments, keep reviewing your vows, keep reviewing what respect is, it keeps you on track. We lose track when we lose sight of the things that are valuable to us, the road markers, the things that keeps us in the right destination. We tend to lose track with those and start taking people for granted. You made a vow, you made a promise, and then you start forsaking. Why? Because you lost sight of your promise. Every once in a while, you got to keep those on the forefront of your mind. The C is communication. Let's go back. What do you think the R is that makes relationships work? The R is what? You guys are good, man. That's it. Respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, right? Respect. Respect means not being rude. Not being rude. I mean, you're going to have a relationship. You got to make sure that you have respect for one another. The Bible says, to not counting the faults of other people. When you love somebody, you don't count faults anymore. At least you shouldn't count faults. You remember? You're doing whatever is good and whatever is kind, but it keeps no record of somebody else is wrong. You know what you did, and you're going to hold that against someone. When you forgive somebody, you let it go. You let it go. You're not going to bring this up again and again. Once you forgive it, you let it go. No longer counting. You're no longer going to be what's called prejudice. Prejudice means you're going to have a preconceived judgment about things. I remember my kids had Nigerian food one time. Went to this little Nigerian fellowship. Nigerian food. It was an acquired taste, baby. I'm telling you, it took all of Jesus to give me something because it was so spicy and it was so different. And my kids wouldn't eat it. I'm like, just try it, just eat it. And they just trying to chew it, and like, Dad, can I just have a little bit? And they were just like, try this. This is very good. You would like it. I said, and they had something called a wheat beverage. A wheat beverage. And he's like, he was excited. He said, try this wheat beverage. I said, a wheat beverage? What's that? He said, it's very good. I had a couple sips, and it tasted like wheat. I never tasted wheat before in a beverage. And he was looking for my response. And I was like, oh, yeah, my best faking job. Oh yeah, he's a good. Yeah. Oh man, I had to. You know how hard it is to put down something that everything about you saying, what is this? It's a wheat beverage. We don't like it. Sorry, you're gonna drink it. You're battling with yourself. What I'm saying, you're learning how to get along. That's what relationships is about. It may not be to your pleasing, or everything is the way you like it or the way mama made it. But you learn how to make the best of wherever you are. Relating to all people. Knowing that there are going to be differences of opinions, differences of understanding, difference of all kind of things. But you learn how to make the best of it and make it work. Those are the ones that are effective. The ones that can be married for 50 years plus. Not that they never had problems, but learn how to work them out and make the best of it. And that's what we should learn how to do. Romans chapter 12, verse 18, if it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Live peaceably with them. Proverbs 18:4, the words of the mouth are deep waters, but the fountain of wisdom is a rushing stream. Sometimes a person just wants to be heard. Guys, we have to know that sometimes when our wives, our spouses, our significant other are speaking to us, they don't want us to fix it. Even though we're fixers, we like, what's the problem? What do you want me to do? We want to fix it. Who do I need to beat up? Or whatever. It's not always like that. Sometimes we just want to be heard. Just learn how to just say, and just listen. Coming home, hearing about your day, sharing your day, hearing about their day is very important. It may not seem like something that you just want to talk about, but it's part of communication. And it takes us to the number 3, the third part of our acronym. We have communication, we have respect. What's the I that makes every relationship work? The I in intimacy. Intimacy, the I that makes everything works. Intimacy. Proverbs 18:24, a man who has friends must himself be friendly, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. When you're going to have friends, first you're friendly. That means you make the first move. We tend to think other people should make the first move. Somebody has to make the move. So in order to be a friend, to have friends, somebody initiated the friendship. So we take it upon ourselves to initiate that, to make the best of it. Introduce yourself. Try to make things work out. The other note I want you to have is that intimacy, what intimacy is acquired trust. Intimacy is acquired trust. It's not always intimacy where you think it is a romantic situation. It's acquiring trust. And that's acquired over time. You know how to trust people over time. And the more you trust a person, the more you let them in to your inner circle. You don't know, but you have boundaries. And you don't let certain people come in. Once you start trusting people, then you let them in the first layer. And then you start trusting them more, there's more. You start sharing things. You start talking about things. And then you let them in more. You start talking about more intimate things that's happening with you. But it's an acquired trust. That's what intimacy is. You learn how to trust people over time. And as you trust them, you bring them closer to you. It also determines the depth of relationship. The more intimate you are with someone, the deeper the relationship can be. And if you're going to be married a long time, then the deeper the relationship, the more strength it has, like roots. The deeper the roots, the stronger whatever that branch or whatever it supports. The roots is what supports everything. The depths of the roots. Things that have shallow roots, as soon as the wind blows or something blows, it's going to tip it over because the roots are so shallow. There's no intimacy. But the more you trust someone, the more that trust is acquired, the stronger that relationship is going to be. And the more it's going to endure. It endures storms. It endures hardships. It endures the struggles. Why? The intimacy. That's what allows you to endure those things. You can love someone on your way to divorce court. It's not all of it. You can love a person, still just can't get along. Love them to death, just can't get along. Because intimacy is what makes it work. And some people have a difficulty because trust may have been broken at some point. They may have had a relationship and trust was broken. And once trust is broken, it's difficult to ever trust anybody else again. That's sad. So we never allow intimacy to take place from that point on. So our relationships are all based on a shallow understanding. So now when difficulties happen, you're ready to bail. Why? Because you don't want to be hurt again. So you shield yourself. You never allow true intimacy to take place. So there's no depth. So as soon as the wind blows, as soon as bad things happen, which they'll happen to everybody, is that right? As soon as you have struggles and difficulty and challenges, you're ready, I'm done with this. Because you feel threatened. Something defied your trust or broke trust. And now this person, whoever you're going, is having to pay for that something else did. The Bible talks about intimacy this way, being woven together. That's what intimacy, woven together. Now, those who sew know that when you sew two pieces of garment together, you have a seam, right? You sew it together and there's a seam where it's sewn together. Now, if you were to pull hard against those two, it's going to tear where? At the seam, generally. It tears at the seam. And then when it tears, this garment is still intact, goes this way, this garment is intact, and you go on your separate way. That's because it was sewn together. But when it's woven together, now there's no seam when it's woven together. There's nothing where one ends and another one begins because they're all a what? One garment. Now, if something is torn, there's no seam to tear. Now, to tear away part of you tears away part of me. See, when you're intimate with someone, you're woven together. It's not just where you just kind of have this casual thing going along where you go your way. You are one. So the Bible says when you get married, the two become one flesh. There's no longer any separate this and separate that. Everything is one. You don't know where one person begins and where another one ends. One person starts a conversation, a word, the other one finishes it, right? You become this oneness over time. And that happens through intimacy. You don't become one by just being casual. It's over time developing and allowing intimacy to take place. It's a very important relationship that you have intimacy. The B is what? Babies? Bonding? Boundaries. Every relationship needs to have healthy boundaries. That needs to be, you need your own space sometime. You need to have your own space. So learn how to establish healthy boundaries. There's certain things that you just don't do. Love does not demand certain things from you. Things that goes beyond what's right and true and what is good. So establish boundaries. Disrespect is a boundary. Don't disrespect. You don't disrespect a person. That's a boundary. And whenever someone crosses that and tries to get over that, you say, whoa, let's stop for a moment. Let's talk about respect for a moment, because I feel that was disrespectful, the way you spoke. This was not the way I envisioned our relationship should be. So if we're going to go that place, I want to let you know this is something we can't have this. If someone tries to take advantage of you, there's a boundary there. You just don't allow it. A healthy person in a healthy relationship would not try to take advantage of someone. That's a parasite. A parasite seeks to take from someone but don't give anything. And if you don't set the boundary, then that means you're allowing yourself to be, the parasite just take away from you. They'll rob you of everything, and you're left with nothing. Because you allowed the parasite to just take hold of you. So you have to set boundaries in every relationship that's healthy. And you get to determine that. Matthew chapter 5, verse 43 and verse 45. You've heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. This is one of those hard lessons of Jesus. Love your enemies. That means when people are being rude and persecuting you and saying evil about you, you love them. You still love them. Those are one of the challenges. Because in doing so, that love can change a person. Love can. Love works. Love rules. You know, there's a way that you can love someone without allowing yourself to be harmed in the process. But love them. Through it all, just keep loving them. Just like a parent who maybe have a child who's problematic, they don't stop loving this child. That child really needs more love. They need more understanding, more caring. See, learn how to do that with everybody. Learn how to show that love and respect for everyone. Because we may need that same thing that we're sharing one day. Romans chapter 12, verse number 20, therefore, if your enemy is hungry, do what? Feed him. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. Then he says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with what? With good. That's our choice. Don't allow yourself to be overcome by situations. Overcome situations with good. With good. You know, if you haven't lived to the point where somebody's lying to your face, you know they're lying, you're looking at them, you're just smiling, being good to them. You know, that's a growth point. Somebody's lying to you, and you know they're lying, and you're going to sit there and you're just going to love them right through it. But again, I'm saying don't allow yourself to be harmed as you're doing good. I got to make sure that your boundaries has to be in place. But you can love someone at a distance. Is that right? You can love someone without letting them, take advantage of you. Learn how to still love them. Be kind-hearted. Wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. Not allowing yourself to be a victim. The S is what? This is a tough one. The S, what?
Selflessness.
Yeah. You need support. Support. You're there to help support and bear with others. Sometimes a person struggles because there's no one's giving them support that they needed. Here's something you got to know. You can't do everything yourself. You're going to need other people. And if you had the right people around you, it's amazing where you can go. But you need that support to help you go through it all. All you're doing is just finding their weaknesses in everyone and just giving someone the support they need. In the same way, we have to accept that. Because a person who's not willing to give it has a difficult time accepting it. Sometimes you've got to be willing to accept help and be willing to give it. Support. If you give a person moral support, it prevents child support. In other words, if you give them what they want over here, it prevents a whole lot of stuff happening on the other end over there. Learning how to be a support where it's needed. Romans chapter 15, verse number 1. Those who are strong and are able in the faith, I'm about to close up on that, needs to step in and lend a hand to those who falter. And not just do what is most convenient for us. Make a note, strength is for service, not status. Strength is for service, not status. When you're stronger, it doesn't mean that you're stronger than someone. You're stronger for someone. Whatever God gives you that's a strength, use it for your good, but it's better to use it for a greater good. God allows you to be that conduit, that vessel, that allows others' lives to be better. God didn't give you every attribute that's positive just for you. That when you start sharing what you've got to the world, God starts enriching you and giving you more. And the more you give, the more He gives back to you. And it's not your glory. At some point you start finding out that what God gave you truly is a gift. When He's giving you a gift, that means it's not your gift only. That gift is meant to be shared. Think about any person that's been gifted out there. You will go and you will pay and you will enjoy being in the company and you'll watch because you're sharing that gift. No matter what gift it is, people are willing to come and partake in your gift. They're willing to pay to receive your gift. But here's the beauty of it. Your gift is something that you give freely. You don't give a gift with an idea in mind that I'm going to give you this gift. Okay, it's your birthday. Here's your birthday gift, but you got to pay me for it. Is that a gift? Well, does a gift have any expectation or obligation? No. When God gives you something, it's freely given to you, and freely we give it to someone else. Next to you, there's someone, people around you. They've got a gift for you. There are people in your neighborhood, people that you work with, they have a gift for you. You have a gift for the people around you. And when you start sharing, you'll find out that as you start giving, God starts multiplying. If you start giving a little, God starts giving a lot. And you start finding there's a principle at stake here. That what God gave me, I'm meant to give to you. I get it and I give it to you. And the more I give it to you, more God starts giving me, not just there, He's giving me in every area of my life. God starts giving. You're giving over here, God's giving you other places. He's planting seeds and things are happening around you. Why? Because you're learning how to release what God has given you. The value that you have is not your value. The value that you have is the value that God gave you. He made you with whatever good that you have, God put that good in there. That knowledge, that gift, that ability to do what you do, God put that in there so that you can build on it and grow it and share it with someone else. If you've got one and I've got one, that's all we've got. But if I share mine with you and you share yours with me, now you've got two, I've got two, and together we've got four. That's God's math. That's synergy. God says, whatever you're willing to share, I will multiply. God doesn't add 1 and 1 and come as 2. It takes 1 and 1, God will magnify it. But we got to be willing to come together, and where two come together, He's right there in the midst. That's why relationships work. Because you can't come together with anybody without God stepping in. If you're willing to come together and share and have that right heart, He will step right in, no matter where you are, and He will make the difference that you can't make. Will He do that? Yes. Do you believe that? Yes. Let's give God a round of praise when we close. Father God, we thank You for allowing us to learn a few things today, just beginning this series. That we know, God, You're going to teach us some wonderful and amazing things. And as our hearts are open to receive, that we could become better at relationships, better givers, better lovers, better family, better fathers and mothers. God, I pray for those who are struggling right now, and the biggest struggle is learning how to have better relationships.